And finally, NATO has started to show its teeth to the reckless Russians after the Kremlin's provocation in Europe. Using drones and fighter jets, Britain and the United States carried out a 12-hour air mission right on Russia's border. That's not all. This episode is very interesting. In fact, United States and British fighters and bombers were testing the nerves of the Russians right on their border. That is, you could even see NATO planes from Russia, but even more importantly, you could see these planes in Belarus just by looking up. I'll explain why later. Meanwhile, more details are emerging about Ukraine and Britain starting joint weapons production. This week, they began producing artillery together. And the cherry on top? The leaders of 3 key European countries announced joint efforts to use frozen Russian assets to support the Ukrainian army, emphasizing the importance of coordination with the United States and strengthening the international position. Well, and today Donald Trump also discussed the transfer of Tomahawk missiles with Zelensky. My name is Alexei Pichi. Well, it's still October 11th on the calendar. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, friends, I want to ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, and leave any comment under this episode. This really helps promote on YouTube. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can donate using the links and details in the description of this video. It says there, support Alexei Pichi's channel. Choose any format that's convenient for you. I would appreciate your support. So, let's start with a really important piece of news about how NATO has started responding to Russian provocations. The United Kingdom plays a key role in this response. Let me remind you, over the past month, flights of unidentified drones have been detected over military facilities and critical infrastructure in the airspace of many European countries. In particular, drones have been detected in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium, Poland, Germany, and France. Several cities suspended operations at civilian airports. Also, in the German city of Incursions, a drone was detected flying over an airbase where NATO aerial reconnaissance aircraft are stationed. Later, everyone admitted it was only Russian drones, and now today, the United Kingdom states that earlier this week, 2 Royal Air Force aircraft carried out a 12-hour mission together with United States and NATO forces to patrol the Russian border. Amid a series of recent incursions by Russian drones and aircraft into NATO airspace, the United Kingdom Defense Minister John Healey briefly noted, quote, "This was an important joint mission with our allies from the United States and NATO. This not only provides valuable intelligence to enhance the operational awareness of our armed forces, but also sends a powerful signal of NATO unity to President Vladimir Putin and our adversaries." Well, and later there were reports that NATO aircraft came as close as possible to Russian airspace to show determination and to rattle the nerves of the Russians. As we can see, the Russians didn't even dare to say a word in response to this. But that's not all. NATO aircraft probably for the first time entered Ukrainian airspace, and not only that. But what episode are we even talking about? It turns out it was back on Thursday, October 9th. The RC-135 Rivet Joint Electronic Reconnaissance Aircraft and the P-8, a Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, flew from the Arctic region over Belarus and Ukraine, supported by a United States Air Force KC-135 tanker aircraft. And now the United Kingdom has officially stated that the operation followed the Russians' incursion into the airspace of NATO countries, including Poland, Romania, and Estonia. Once again, let's note that NATO aircraft flew along the Russian border and even partially entered the airspace of Belarus and Ukraine. This happened on Thursday, October 9. On October 11, the British Defense Minister admitted that, yes, 2 NATO aircraft were probing the borders of Russia and Belarus as a union state of that very unwashed Russia. And on October 11, when it was already impossible to wash away this shame, when it had already been publicly announced, the Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko decided to react and ordered an urgent check of the combat readiness of the Belarusian army. On Lukashenko's orders, on October 11, the military carried out a series of measures to bring the units to the highest level of combat readiness. According to the Belarusian Ministry of Defense, some units will move to designated areas and carry out the tasks specified in the order. The State Secretariat of the Security Council of Belarus coordinates the inspection. Although it might seem that the joint military exercises between Russia and Belarus in 2025, whose active phase lasted from September 12 to 16, were held mainly on the territory of Belarus. All of this could have been practiced earlier and combat readiness checked. Let me remind you, at that time Moscow and Minsk said the exercises aimed to counter Poland and the Baltic countries' militarization. Well, here's your militarization when NATO planes are flying over your heads. It's important to note that right now, the United Kingdom is probably taking the most proactive position when it comes to supporting Ukraine. And today, documents on joint projects in battlefield technology were signed between the Secretary of State for Defense of the United Kingdom and the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. As noted, the document records the parties' intentions to jointly develop and scale defense technologies and provides for the creation of a working group to coordinate joint projects within the LIRA program. The goal of the LIRA program is to strengthen the defense capabilities of both countries by merging Ukrainian and British defense industrial and scientific potential. This will make it possible to jointly develop, modernize, and scale up the production of the necessary weapons systems. Well, and as the United Kingdom Minister for the Armed Forces stated, the Kingdom plans to implement various projects with Ukraine, including bomb production. Quote, "We are starting with drones for obvious reasons, but overall, Ukraine is an important partner for us in developing technologies necessary to deter Russia and rearm Europe." And one more important piece of news. The leaders of 3 key European countries announced joint efforts to use frozen Russian assets to support the Ukrainian army, emphasizing the importance of coordination with the United States and strengthening the international position. During a recent phone conversation, the leaders of the United Kingdom, France, and Germany agreed to move forward with the joint use of the value of frozen Russian assets to support the armed forces of Ukraine. In a statement released by the German government, it is noted that these actions are aimed at putting pressure on Russia and encouraging it to negotiate. In short, the issue of using frozen Russian assets is finally moving forward little by little. These discussions are already reaching the level where they are talking about how to use this money to help the armed forces of Ukraine. Well, let's see how the Kremlin will react to the statement of John Hiller, who says that he forgives in the Kremlin. That he forgives. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.